fact of the matter is blockchain technology as a distributed, transparent, immutable ledger system is actually a lot more effective to combat illicit funds. This is a tricky one, right? And I think, look, initially the problem was that we were lacking regulations. And so we've done a significant push over the last 2 years to decide as an organization from a strategic perspective that we do need to be compliant and work closely with regulators to create those regulatory frameworks across the jurisdictions. We currently have 22 licenses now, the most of any centralized exchange around the world. But like as you correctly mentioned, now the follow-up problem is that these regulations need to be harmonized. They're extremely different, and we need to find a way to work with the various regulators as the largest exchange to try and find that balance. Again, in service of the user, so that the experience is kind of familiar from place to place. And the biggest challenge is to try to find that sweet spot where your regulations are ensuring user safety, but are also commercially viable. So for us, we invest a lot in our compliance infrastructure, whether it's on the technology front, whether it's on the human resources, to make sure that we're able to have those strong relationships with each regulator, and to make sure that Binance is remaining compliant and is able to, from an operational level, satisfy various compliance requirements in the areas that we operate. And most importantly, we have to understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all. So inherently, our tech and our platform needs to be built in a way where it's modular in order to be able to kind of accommodate various regulations across the different markets that we operate. For example, a product might not be available in this market where it is in another market, or a specific user segment can't have access to a certain type of product. So all these things need to be taken into account in terms of our tech infrastructure to be able to handle multiple regulations for the time being. And then hopefully as we get along, our engagements over time will help us kind of create a more harmonized approach with all the regulators that we work with. Safety is top of mind at Binance. And I think it's important to note that it takes two to tango here. The onus is on us to provide a safe and secure platform for users to engage with, but our users also need to understand how to protect themselves and what the best practices are, so that we create this effective combination to holistically protect our users. So I would say, it's both preventive and reactive, okay? On the preventive side, like I said, we invest millions and millions of dollars to ensure that we have the best-in-class security infrastructure, whether it's implementing 2FA, authentication, top-of-the-line encryption technology, having a very secure process for managing our hot and cold wallets, where the assets are stored. And we also invest a lot in education. I think for us, as I mentioned, the user needs to understand how to engage with the platform and in general with crypto in a safe manner. So that's, a lot of our time is spent educating the user. And then on the preventive side, it's important, on the reactive side, the scammers are always updating their techniques and their methods. So we have to stay vigilant, and we have to monitor what's happening. And when we catch wind of a scam, we have to make sure that we have a quick comms plan to alert our users and inform them about the scam and teach them how to avoid it. So look, there's been a misconception which stems from the earlier days of crypto that blockchain and crypto is used for illicit activity. Now, that may have been a bit more pronounced earlier in the day of when crypto was just starting, but we've come a long way since. And the fact of the matter is blockchain technology as a distributed, transparent, immutable ledger system is actually a lot more effective to combat illicit funds, okay? Everything on the blockchain can be traced. Even though you have pseudonymity, you still have a verifiable digital ID that you can trace. And now with the advent of KYC, especially on the central exchanges where it becomes mandatory, you can now trace the identities of bad actors and trace the fund flow much better than you can do on traditional fiat systems. So to give you an interesting data point, in the last year, 0.15% of transactions on the blockchain and crypto were linked to illicit activity. The year before that, it was 0.6%. Now, if you compare that to traditional fiat systems, the UN estimates that about 5% of global GDP is tied to illicit activity. And so the reality is that blockchain is a new technology that allows you to better combat AML concerns than what we have today. And that's one of the most, I'd say, disruptive and useful elements of blockchain technology going forward. So that stereotype, I think, is outdated. Things have changed drastically. Yes, most definitely. I think AI will have a broad application across the business, but specifically around safety and security, it's going to be extremely important. We already use AI threat detection algorithms to kind of crawl the platform 24/7 to search for fraud and alert our users. In fact, in 2024, we saved our users around 4 billion of potential scams because of this technology. And using AI, it will continuously improve, and we'll definitely rely on it to continue to protect our users. Outside of safety and security, I also see AI helping us in improving our customer service and response time, in personalizing our experience for the user. AI algorithm and agents can be used to kind of understand our users' behaviors, preferences, and give them insights and recommendations to inform the trading decisions. And I think AI can also help us elevate our content strategy as well. So I think, as I mentioned, AI will be used across the board and definitely be used to enhance safety and security. Unfortunately, there are no shortage of scams these days, but we do a great job of preventing them, detecting them, and reacting to them. The last one that I recall was a SMS phishing scam, where the scammers tried to trick our users into clicking on a link that came via an SMS that looked as though it came from Binance. So we quickly were alerted to the scam and reached out to our users to warn them and to avoid falling into it, and then decided to kind of take a more long-term approach to fixing this issue by improving our product. And what we did was that we said that, okay, let's create a tool where a user is now allowed to create a unique code that he can set for each communication channel, whether it's SMS or email. And if the user receives an SMS or an email that looks like it's Binance but doesn't have that unique code in it, then the user is able to quickly understand that this is a scam and avoid it. So an example like that is great because you react to a scam, as I said, with this reactive comms approach, but then you kind of figure out ways to prevent it on an ongoing basis using our tech and product tools.